Welcome to the tutorial video for the new Innosonix Discovery Firmware Manager, IDFM for short. In this video, we will show you how to set the network configuration and update the firmware of your Innosonix devices using the IDFM tool. After starting the application, it will automatically search for devices within the network and show them in the Devices page. At the moment, there are two devices in our list. One of them has this little unplugged icon next to it. This is to tell us that even though the device could be found in the network, it is out of range, meaning the IDFM tool will not be able to establish a TCP connection to it, which is necessary in order to perform a firmware update. The most likely reason for this is that the network interface of our PC and the device itself don't share the same subnet. In our case, we will simply use the application to change the affected device's network settings in order to solve the problem. Please note that it will take a few seconds for these changes to take effect. Alternatively, we would have to change the configuration on our PC's network interface. Before we can perform a firmware update, we have to make the actual firmware files available to the IDFM tool. As you can see, there is a little notification next to the Firmware tab selector. This notifies us that a firmware version newer than what the application currently has stored is available. Let's switch to the Firmware tab. Expanding the list for the MA32D and LP models gives us two entries. Firmware version 3.2 is currently stored. Version 3.4 is the version we have been notified about. Clicking on the download button will store version 3.4 on your machine and make it available to your IDFM tool. In case you do not want the application to automatically check for firmware updates online, simply deactivate the update notification. In that case, you can manually import firmware files into the IDFM firmware storage. Now that we downloaded the newest firmware, let's switch back to the Devices tab. The device that previously had the little unplugged icon next to it now has an update icon. This icon tells us that we can perform a firmware update for this device. Clicking on the icon will open the Update Manager and pre-select the newest firmware version currently in store. Let's update this device to the newest firmware. Awesome! Now our device is up to date. As you might have noticed, the other device in our list is still on a version 2 firmware. Version 2 lacks a couple of features necessary to update to version 3, so the update process is more sophisticated and will take more time. Let's walk you through the update procedure. Open the Update Manager, where you will find a notification that devices with version 2 firmware have been found in the network. Click on the notification to open the version 2 to version 3 update wizard. If this is the first time you're performing this update, the application will most likely have to download the necessary files first. Click on the download button to make those files available to the IDFM tool. At the bottom of the window, you'll find a list with all the devices with a version 2 firmware. You can start the update process for each device individually. By default, each device will have the option Migrate Settings activated. This is necessary if you wish to import the device's current configuration after the upgrade to firmware version 3. Please note that the Migrate Settings option will also significantly increase the duration of the update process to up to 45 minutes. So please don't be surprised if it takes a while. In case you deactivate the Migrate Settings option, you will be prompted to confirm your decision before starting the update process. Since not migrating your settings will irreversibly erase your device's current configuration, we simply want to make sure you're not accidentally losing any valuable information. Now that we had a look at the main features, let me show you some of the IDFM tool's additional functions. Clicking on the eye icon will activate the identify function of the respective device. This will cause the device's front display to start flashing. In case you are in front of an installation with multiple devices installed and have trouble identifying each device, this function should prove useful. Note that the application will take care that only one device at a time will have its identify function activated. Clicking on the globe icon will automatically open up the device's control page in your default web browser. Clicking on the host name will open up a prompt where you can change its host name. Please note that it will take a few seconds until a host name change will be visible within the application. Clicking on the info icon will open a list with all the most important information about that device. Each list entry can be copied to your clipboard via click. In case a device disappears from the network while the IDFM tool is active, it will remain in the list but be marked as offline. The application will regularly check in the background if all found devices are still active and responding. Otherwise, it would take several minutes before a device could be identified as offline. That's it. Thank you for watching and goodbye.